Yo, I just wanted to show you this beer money site that I've been using for a couple years now called SurveyJunkie. I've earned close to $250 now. You mainly earn from doing surveys. You can also earn from doing your searches, just Google searches and all that if you download their little app and software. You can also earn from doing like promos that they run every month or so. Now, SurveyJunkie is also one of the most well known survey sites, at least by name. Now, I'm going to be honest, it's not one of my favorites. I think it's pretty mediocre. Um, and I think it's a little overhyped. But I'll get into why in a little bit. But anyways, let's get to my computer screen.
All right, really quick before we start, just a shameless plug. If anyone's curious on what I cash out from and what I continue to use, I like to do two cash outs every month, one in the middle of the month and one at the end of the month. Sometimes they're a little late just because I gotta wait for the cash out, because I like to show the receipts and all that just to prove it. But I do these on my main channel. I do a short and I also talk about it on my weekly vlogs of like I have a section talking about beer money and stuff. I also have a section on my blog where it's called the monthly earnings, and you can kind of see what I cash out from every single month and stuff. And I have all the receipts and stuff. I also put my money into trading, and I show my trading account progress on my blog as well, on the same pages of my monthly earnings. I also talk about it on my weekly vlogs and stuff if anyone's curious and stuff. I don't plan to teach anyone how to trade, but it's just something nice to do because if we're being honest, beer money doesn't pay you that much. It's not going to replace the job. Sure, it's nice to have it to pay for like small subscriptions or even gas money every single month and all that, or groceries or whatever you want. But I'm still learning how to trade. Um, if anyone's curious, I do talk a little bit about it on my weekly vlogs, just the psychology and some of my mistakes and, thought processes on certain things and stuff. And maybe you can learn something from it if you're curious on trying to do stocks and stuff and or slightly interested in doing it and stuff. But in my opinion, maybe some people disagree. I think stocks are 60% to 70% just psychological based as well as emotion based and stuff. And I talk a little bit about it, maybe you can get something from there. But anyways, just a shameless plug. Anyways, let's get to the review of SurveyJunkie. Now, this is what SurveyJunkie looks like on the desktop version. They have a point system where 1 point is equal to $1, as you can see. Now, I have 749 points, and then convert that, it'd get $7.49. Now, as the name implies, it is a survey site. The main way that you earn is by doing surveys. And one great thing about SurveyJunkie is that you usually have a lot of surveys. Like, this is usually how much you get. And once you do one, they'll usually replace one. I don't know how many surveys this is. I'm not going to count it out. But the downside of this, or at least SurveyJunkie in general, is that I feel like a lot of these surveys are just not worth doing. Like you can see this 18-minute one for like 50 cents and stuff. Like 18 minutes on another website would be well, like $1.15 minimum, $1.25, I don't know. But these are pretty low rates. And oh, here's a great example before this disappears. But you you can get these surf to earn surveys if you download their Survey Junkie Pulse, I think it's called. But there's this application that you can download on desktop. I don't know if it's available on mobile. Maybe it is. If it is, let me know. I'll update the blog and help other people out. But what this does is it usually sits on your desktop and it'll track what you kind of search for. And that's another way to earn. It's a nice passive thing if you don't mind. But they'll usually pay you 10 cents. Just to show you an example of my history right here. The surf to earn bonus right here. I've gotten it a couple times and stuff. Here's another one right here. I don't know how much you have to search. I don't know if there's certain things you have to search or something, but they pay you every so often. If you like searching things online super often or frequently, like, even small searches like, oh, converting gallons to liters or quarts or whatever, it's nice to have. And, it's passive, right? That's the second way to earn. Now, the third way to kind of earn is I do this every single day except for Sundays. But if we go to my email really quick, you see these emails from SurveyJunkie named 1 minute something. They name it differently every single day and stuff. But the only way that I know to access these surveys is by clicking on these links that they give you to take you directly to the surveys. You get them every single day except for Sunday. Now, there might be some weeks where the bot breaks that they send out these emails where you won't get any for a certain week, or there might be certain or random days in the week other than Sunday that you might not get these as well. But they usually pay you 5 to 10 cents, which is not a lot, but it's nice. It's a nice little bonus, I guess. And you don't get disqualified from these. I think it's impossible to get disqualified from these, honestly. But they're super quick to do. Usually like 7 questions, I think. It's usually like 6 multiple choice questions, and then uh it should be one typing question, I think, and you don't really have to type that much. But like I said, you can't really get disqualified from these. And um they'll usually pay you alternating from 5 cents to 10 cents. Like, let's say this one was 5 cents. The next one should be 10 cents, and then 5 cents again, and then 10 cents again. Sometimes it breaks and it only becomes 5 cents twice in a row or 3 times in a row. But, if you like doing those, they usually send it in the same time every day or close to the same time. For me, it's like 8 o'clock to 10 or 11 o'clock. You usually have 24 hours to do these, by the way. So um, let's say they gave this at like 9 p.m. right now or today, and it's 2 p.m. right now. You would have another, well, like 16 hours, 15 hours. I don't know, my math's not great. You'll have another like from the time that they give it to you, you have 24 hours to do it. All right. So if you do this in the last hour that they gave you and you like forgot, you should still get the reward and stuff. So don't feel too rushed to do these. They also don't fill up or anything. Like I said, you don't get disqualified. But anyways, that's kind of the 3 main ways that you really earn from SurveyJunkie. There's another, or they also run these promos, I guess is another way. I'm not a big fan of doing them. But I think they give these like at least once a month or twice a month. And you get $5 for doing this, but you have to complete 3 surveys for 7 days straight. And they all have to be 20 points or more, like 3 surveys worth 20 cents or more. And you can't get disqualified for them, right? Now, the problem that I have with this is there's not a lot of really good surveys to do. Like this 8-minute one for 30 cents is just not good, right? Like eight minutes would be maybe 70 cents to 80 cents most of the time on like other survey sites that I'd recommend and stuff. And I'll be doing more reviews on more sites from like the following weeks from now. But it's just like this just doesn't feel like doing. Like it's not worth doing, especially for only $5 to have to do these surveys, and hopefully you don't get disqualified, and hopefully you find a survey throughout the day that is worth doing that's more than 20 cents and stuff. Like it's just not like it's not great. They sometimes have these easier ones where I don't know if they have them anymore because I just ignored this thing. But I think it's usually 3 to 4 days where instead of 7 days in a row, you have to do three out of the like you have a week limit, but you just have to do 3 to 4 days of surveys worth of 20 points um in those days, and you'll earn $5, which is way better than having to do 3 extra days, because it's sometimes you just get bad RNG and you don't get a good survey for that day. Now, feel free to do it if you want. I personally don't recommend it. There's also a time limit on it, by the way. They have this leaderboard thing. I think it's more of a social thing. Like it just shows you how many points people earn and stuff. I don't really care for it. You don't really earn anything. It doesn't look like you earn anything. Like I could be wrong, but you just get to see where you place on SurveyJunkie and all that. I recommend not worrying about it just because you don't get anything from it. Um, I think those are the main ways to earn on SurveyJunkie. I also forgot to show you, just to prove it, I have made close to 250 bucks from it. I've been a member since 2021. Even though I've been a member for so long and I've earned so little, that just shows uh how little I look at this this site. Like I'll check it every so often and stuff, but you know. Anyways, let's get a little more down to the problems that I have with the site. Now, while these surveys, like while you get a lot of surveys on here, they are very low paying in my opinion, especially compared to like a lot of other beer money sites and stuff. Now, I use the same demographics for every single site, like my age and, where I live, not my address, but like, where I live and if I have any pets or anything and all that. Like I use the same demographics. And the reason I bring that up is I'll get the same survey that I got from another survey site that I think is better on SurveyJunkie. And the only reason I know that is because whenever I click on a survey and the survey is set up the same, it asks the same questions, the disqualification questions in the same place, everything's the exact same, right? And you can definitely tell. Like especially for the surveys that give you like pictures or like videos that you have to watch to like review and kind of give your opinion on, those are the most telling ones to know that it's literally the exact same survey. Now, the problem with SurveyJunkie is you get paid way less for those surveys. At least for me, I do. I get paid like usually like half the price that I would from another survey site that I did the survey on, or even a third of that. And if you don't know, how these work is these surveys come from sponsors. They come from other people, like other sites and other companies that give these surveys to SurveyJunkie to do. SurveyJunkie is kind of the middleman of doing these surveys. Now, when you complete any surveys or any tasks or any games or anything, they pay SurveyJunkie, and then SurveyJunkie is the one that decides, okay, we'll pay you this much money for doing this survey, which is, what they show right here. They've already decided for you. Now, it kind of sucks because when other sites pay you a lot more and they still have the same ability to decide for themselves of how much they pay you, it's really telling to me of, man, SurveyJunkie just really doesn't care to pay you that much, right? Especially when you do the same survey, you just know. Not to say that SurveyJunkie is not worth using. Like you'll eventually get you'll get good surveys every so often, not very often, but every so often. And I mean, if you like to do searches, like I said, having this thing in the back, you'll get 10 cents every so often and stuff, and that's pretty nice, right? You earn money passively for doing whatever you're doing already. And that's nice. Just to have that at least, like even doing these like 1 minute surveys right here, like I said, those are really nice too. It adds up. Um, but SurveyJunkie is a very kind of low mid tier type of survey site for me. Not to say that you shouldn't try it out. A good rule of thumb that a lot of survey enjoyers or people who don't mind doing surveys do is they like having a lot of survey sites just because they can kind of rotate through them just to check, really like do a quick skim to see if there's any good surveys to do. Before I forget, another kind of nice way to earn from SurveyJunkie is there's these surf to earn surveys. I don't have any anymore. Like you saw one in the beginning, but like, I wasn't on that part, talking about that part yet. But here's a picture of what it looks like. They usually pay you 20 cents to 80 cents. And they'll usually take about 5 minutes to do, or 4 or 5 minutes to do. They're super quick to do, very easy surveys, and they're all from SurveyJunkie and stuff. And a lot of the questions will be multiple choice. They might throw in like one or two questions that you have to type or something, but like they're super easy to do. And from what I noticed is they're less disqualification rate than other survey sites or other surveys on SurveyJunkie, sorry. Um, and they pay you a decent amount for doing it for 4 to 5 minutes sometimes. Now you only get access to those when you have the SurveyJunkie Pulse. When you have this thing downloaded and all that, that's the only time you can get access to those. They look purple just like I showed you and stuff, and you should be able to download it from up here where it says like good morning and stuff. It should give you like a little prompt that says like, hey, download Survey Junkie Pulse. And we'll give you like $1 or $1.50. I don't remember how much they pay you, but that's the only way you can access them. Not to say they still don't disqualify you, like I said, but it is a lot lower disqualification rate. Now, apart from that, another bad thing about SurveyJunkie that I notice is I don't think I've ever had another survey site that fills up surveys as quick as SurveyJunkie. Like, I'm not saying that other survey sites don't have this. Like, and what I mean is, let's say you try to do this $1.20 survey right here, right? When you click on it, I'm not gonna click on it, but when you click on it, it's gonna pop up a window and it'll sometimes say, "Hey, sorry, we already have enough participants." And I'm not saying that other survey sites don't do this, but SurveyJunkie, at least for me, has been one of the top ones that is this case, which is kind of surprising to me because like I feel like not a lot of people use SurveyJunkie. Like I understand it is one of the more well-known ones, but like I'm surprised if there's that many people using it. And I would expect more people to be using other survey sites that are paying a lot more is kind of what I'm getting at, right? And if they really have that many people, it just kind of sucks because it's like it forces competition of like, oh, you gotta hurry up and click on one of these surveys to do and stuff, or maybe they have a lower limit of how many participants that they can push from SurveyJunkie onto those surveys and stuff, which is another terrible thing that I don't like about SurveyJunkie. It's just really annoying to get that. And sometimes like another annoying thing that I've never had happen on like other I guess I have actually, never mind. This just happens more on SurveyJunkie, but let's say you're doing a survey, right? You get halfway done, it's gonna sometimes kick you out and say like, "Hey, sorry, we've reached our capacity limit of participants for this survey." Now, SurveyJunkie will sometimes pay you 2 to 3 cents for as a minimum for getting disqualified. That is kind of nice, but 2 to 3 cents is just not a lot. It's better than nothing, but it's just not a lot. I think there's also a limit on how much they can or how much they're willing to give you as a minimum when you like get disqualified from surveys is another kind of bad thing. I've never tested it just because I don't do a lot of surveys here because it's not the best site that I've used. Um, I think that's like mainly all that I can really talk about on SurveyJunkie. So let's get to the cash outs. So there's 7 cash outs available to you apart from these two right here. But you have Amazon, Walmart, iTunes, I think. I think it's iTunes, yeah. And then you have um, Target, uh, Starbucks, Sephora, and Groupon. And then you have your two main ones, PayPal and bank transfer. I think for the bank transfer, I think you have to log in to your bank account with the bank transfer. I could be wrong. I've never tried it, but I prefer to do PayPal myself. But if this is your first time doing SurveyJunkie and cashing out to PayPal, you're gonna have to like when you click on this button, it's gonna log you into PayPal, your PayPal account, and then you're gonna have to log into your account so it links your account to SurveyJunkie, so it knows that's your account and stuff to verify it's a legit account, and all that. Now, I don't know if this is the case for everyone, but since I've been using SurveyJunkie for Oh, actually, there's a $5 minimum before I forget, by the way. There's a $5 minimum for cash outs for everything. But anyways, apart from that, if this is your first time cashing out from SurveyJunkie, I don't know if this applies to everyone, but I only got this recently, like the last couple months. I had to verify my ID. I also had to do face verification so they can match my face to the ID just to make sure I'm the same person and all that. I've been using this site for 4 years. It's never had me do that until now. So I don't know if that's the case for everyone. So just keep that in mind if you want to use the site and cash out from it. It might not force you to, but it did for me. Um, I will add this. Oh, here's a surf to earn thing right here. I wish I popped up earlier. But anyways, these do fill up really quick. So if you ever get this, try to do them as fast as you can, just to hopefully get paid for it. But anyways, just on a quick side note, I will try my best on my blog to add a section where I recommend certain survey sites to do or you know, to not leave the survey and try to do them. Um, if I'll get to it when I'm not lazy, but there are certain survey sites like that I'd recommend doing just because they're a lot quicker and they do pay a fair amount or a lot less disqualification rate. And you won't be able to tell what survey site these are going to take you to until you click on the survey and until you do like the qualification questions where it asks you like, oh, write 2 sentences of your favorite holiday or vacation or whatever, or click on these questions or answer these questions this way and stuff. You that's until then, and then until you like finish those questions, you won't know until it takes you to the site. But anyways, I think that's kind of all that I can really talk about on SurveyJunkie. Here's the most recent cash out that I did for SurveyJunkie just to, prove that they paid. And as you saw from my account, I've gotten paid all of the amount right here, and I'm only holding like a balance of $7.49. But anyways, I think that's kind of all that I have for SurveyJunkie. If you want to use it, feel free to use it. It's another survey site. They pay you. Sometimes you'll get a good survey. Feel free to check it every so often and stuff. Surf to earn's pretty nice, if you don't mind them checking what you search and all that. It's a nice little passive thing. Um, Anyways, if I'm forgetting anything, as usual, it'll be on the blog. If it's not on the blog, I'll update it. But anyways, I'm gonna get back to playing some Final Fantasy VII. I gotta go fight these stupid hedgehogs that keep killing me. But anyways, take care.